example, the United States, you know where a lot of our oil is going? I just found this out, Nima. Impeccable sources. A lot of Israel's oil is coming from, guess who? The United States of America. The JP-8 that's necessary for all those massive, massive numbers of plane strikes that Israel has made day in and day out is almost 100% coming from the empire. We are shipping fuel to Israel at a pace that outstrips anything else we're doing in the world in terms of fossil fuels. Now, there are others sending fuel in too. I did, I think, conclusively discover that the oil in Syria some of it is getting to Israel still, and that's one reason we want to stay there. But JP-8 is a critical thing because that's what keeps your airplanes in the air. And Israel only has about a 300,000 gallon per day refining capacity for JP-8, and they're probably burning that per day. So they've got to get that fuel from somewhere. And so now the empire is not only complicit in genocide with 2,000-pound bombs and all the rest Israel is using, we're now complicit in keeping their planes flying so that they can drop those bombs. Listening to Jolani in Damascus with the Turkish foreign minister, both speaking very good English and very fluent in the speaking, or the translator for Jolani, and a couple of other interviews that I watched that Jolani gave and that other people who are critical to the area gave. Now, rule out Israel completely, and I'll get to that in just a second. But this idea of domination is going to murder Syria, I think, because you saw when Lee went in to talk with Jolani and his people and insisted that he not have any contacts with Iran, just the surface of what the empire is going to do. The empire is not going to lift sanctions unless they do exactly what we want them to do. And if we don't lift sanctions, then it's almost impossible, even with Turkey's help and maybe others' help, it's going to be impossible for him to get out because sanctions are what ultimately undid Assad. So he's facing this inexorability that I talked about before. And I feel sorry for him because however good intentions he might have and how much he might have discarded his past, and I think in that past he was working for us, he's not going to be able to do it. And Turkey is not going to be able to help him to do it in any significant way, even if their ulterior motives are not quite as benign as the foreign minister seemed to say. They're just not going to be able to do it. And Israel's not going to be able to continue what it's doing either because the chaos that the empire has created, which disregards all these other little players, including Israel, is going to be overwhelming for them. They're not going to be able to deal with it. Mark my words here. Israel is going to be gone, just as I said before, in less than a decade. It's going to be gone as an integral state in the region where it now exists. And that's because we've started these forces in motion that are designed to build chaos to the extent that they stop this inexorable power shift. And they will eat anyone on the periphery. They will destroy anyone on the periphery, ally, friend, or enemy. They will do that. I think Putin senses that. I'm not sure he's got this grasp of the great game that I'm suggesting is going again, and I hate that title of game because it isn't a game, it's existential. He senses that, he knows that. But you're right, if Russia and China and the BRICS Plus put up that wall of, shall we say, control, China likes to call it the ASEAN approach. The approach that attracts more people to it, the approach that builds more economic might, more financial might, ultimately replaces the dollar, thank you very much. The approach that says comedy and cooperation and collaboration is our design, and you can say we've got an ulterior motive all day long, our design is better than yours, and the rest of the world increasingly is recognizing that. So we're going to put this in motion, whether it's the Base Road Initiative or something else, and you're going to run up against it, and it's going to be a juggernaut. And the only way you're going to stop it is to kill us all. That's what frightens me about this contest. This is not a game. This is no game for the British to play in Crimea. Charge of the Light Brigade, you know, into the Valley of Death, Road to 600. Well, this will be into the Valley of everyone extinguished on the face of the earth. This is a different confrontation. It's not a game at all. And we're just stoking the fires. And Donald Trump hasn't a clue about what I just said, nor do any of his principal advisors. And they're going to fall right into the trap. Under the bombs, to be predictable.
Yeah.
Israel's digging its own grave, Nima. It's digging its own grave with the people of the world, with the international community writ large in terms of law and criminal justice. It's digging its own grave. It's digging it in Gaza. It's incredible. You know, if you look at the history of the Israelites, not the Israelis, but the Israelites, this is what they did throughout their history. Arrogance, disregarding their own scripture, worshiping the golden calf, and then someone like Nebuchadnezzar took them down.
What's so amazing to me, Larry, that those people who are feeling that they're victorious, they're winning right now in Israel, I'm talking about Netanyahu and his administration, it doesn't seem to be, they couldn't defeat Hamas in Gaza, they couldn't defeat Hezbollah. And right now they're taking credit from what Turkey or the United States did in Syria, which wasn't the case for Israel. Israel didn't do anything substantially
except move in fast with shovels and rakes.
So it's how can they say that they're winning? And right now, how?
I think that's what you do when you're losing so badly. You're either psychologically predisposed to use that kind of propaganda, and you hope it helps your efforts ultimately, or you're just kind of mad. And I think a little bit of both applies to Netanyahu. Plus, he's got that spur that is on him all the time to stay out of jail.
What I do see right now, Larry, is the way that Israel tried to treat Hamas when this movement started in those days against the leader of Palestine. I don't remember his name, and they were just helping Hamas to go after some sort of division, to make some sort of division within the Palestinians. And right now we see how Hamas turned against them. And don't you think that what's happening right now in Syria would be the same case, would be the same story? After all, when everything gets to the point that these people are powerful enough, they're going to fight Israel, in my opinion.
I think so. And I think what you're seeing, the thing that really puzzles me, it shouldn't puzzle me because I had to deal with Mahmoud Abbas and Yasser Arafat.
His name was Yasser Arafat. Yeah. They were helping Hamas against Yasser Arafat.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Palestinian Authority essentially doing Israel's job for it on the West Bank, trying to bring order and discipline in order to get the master to say, "Oh, thank you for doing that," and then kill them too. But you're right. This is a crazy situation, and the Palestinians, frankly, in this little tactical sense, outside this great sweep I'm talking about, power change, are their own worst enemy. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. They're their own worst enemy. They never can. They're like the Kurds. The Kurds can never get their act together. They squabble amongst themselves. If the Kurds mounted an offensive from northern Iraq all the way to northern Syria and got everything together, they'd be a formidable force, but they can never do that because they're always arguing amongst themselves. And they're anything but, in the northern part of Iraq, a democracy. People keep telling me about how Sulaymaniyah and other places are just great places to go and visit and everything because the economy's booming. No, they aren't Democrats. There's no way in the world they are. They're fiefdoms. They're tribal. That's their great weakness. Palestinians, to a certain extent, are the same way. But I go back to they're all going to be swept. They're going to be detritus, Nima. They're all going to be swept up in this massive contest between the empires that are aborting and the empires that are dying. And we're the one that's dying. And it may take us 50 years, but it'll be a bloody 50 years. And I'm afraid we may adumbrate that 50-year period of whatever it is with a colossal nuclear holocaust in the middle of it. And that'll stop it. That'll stop it for sure. That'll stop and it's a huge example of what we're talking about now from time to time in more or less esoteric circles now about the possibility of Bibi using a nuclear weapon. Because some people sense what I'm telling you about Israel, that it is going down, and it is going down big time. And it'll be Monday morning when you went to bed on Sunday night and everything was okay. Monday morning, it won't be okay. And then maybe Golda Meir's answer to that BBC journalist comes back and haunts you, because the Solomon option is always there. Let's pull the temple down. Let's use a nuclear weapon. And it might not be Iran that sparks it. It might be something else that sparks it. One never knows about this region. I'm reading right now some information that, for example, shocking information, but I should have expected it, because I knew the 9/11 Commission didn't do a very good job. Hell, I wrote Powell's testimony for it and helped with Condi Rice's testimony. I knew we didn't do a good job. But right now, I'm hearing the information's coming out that shows major Saudi royal complicity in 9/11. And the only thing that's keeping it from coming out is people who don't want it to come out. But it will inexorably work its way out. I wonder how much deeper this goes. Were we even complicit with the Saudi royals? Because it started the clean break strategy instantly, just like that. Gave us an excuse to do it when we didn't really have an excuse to do it. So there are all kinds of things percolating in the background right now that might cause a lot of embarrassment and a lot of problems for a good many people in the Western Empire pushing back against the movement of power towards the East. And I know the Chinese and the Russians and others will take advantage of that in any way they can. But they don't really have to do very much, because the world is rapidly becoming a empire hater. It reminds me of the opening scenes. I don't know if you're a young man, but way back there when the Star Wars series started, and you had this battle star up there, and you had the rebels on the surface of the moon or whatever it was, and the comparison was stark, of course, because it was Hollywood. It was compressed time, 2 hours of a film, whatever. But the images come back to me with stark realism, because that is what the rest of the world is. Han Solo and the people on the ground, the rebels, as it were, and we're the empire. We're the battle star that has the big weapon up there that's going to incinerate not just them, but their whole world, blow their planet or whatever out of the universe. That's a very good image for what we have become in the United States. And that's exactly what the Turkish foreign minister insinuated to the new leader in Damascus. What wrecked this region wrecked you. Now, let's don't let it go any further. I wanted to say to Foreign Minister Saddam, good luck. Because you got the empire on your back. I don't care how much you trust Erdogan and Turkey's power and your position in the region, which is very strategic. The empire will push you over too if it has to.
Larry, how did you find this fighter jet F-18 that the United States is talking about that was shot down accidentally by the United States? Yeah. And on the other hand, Yemenis they have published an official statement talking about that. We've done that, and they want to take credit for that.
Well, I was in the operational headquarters in terms of unified commands when Vincennes shot down the Iranian airliner in the Persian Gulf. you may recall. A terrible act, but I don't think there was any knowledge that they were doing it when they did it. They actually thought it was a threat. There was a real problem in the Command Information Center, the CIC, on the ship. And after that, I hope anyway, I was told we fixed it, because my admiral was fit to be tied that day. We did what? We shot down a commercial airliner with 177 civilians on it, I think it was. That was quite a shock in our command center. So it can happen. It could happen that the CIC on one of the destroyers or one of the other ships got confused and shot our own boys down, or girls too now. But you're right, we would cover it up if the Houthis did it, and there's a good possibility the Houthis did it. It's a dangerous place. It's a very dangerous place. I was talking with the people I was mentioning to you about the oil, and one of the ways we know this now, Nima, this is for, put this in your own factoid suitcase. The way we know it, almost without any doubt, in terms of where tankers are going, is because the Israelis have turned off all the transponders on their tankers, which just drives the insurance companies nuts. So Lloyd's, for example, one of the biggest, Lloyd's of London, has started putting agents in every port to which their ships call. And so they, when a transponder goes off, they track that ship, and they know where that ship is going, and they meet that ship, and they find out what's happening with the cargo that they're insuring. Because, the insurance rates are going to go up considerably if it's Israel shipping that oil, or U.S. shipping that oil to Israel. At any rate, it's not a fail-safe source, but it's a good source. It's probably the best source in time of war. So what we're discovering is that a lot of the trade routes that are critical to world commerce and to things going like they should go, and insurance rates staying down and so forth, is being very perturbated right now. And it's being done. It's another reason I say Israel is not long for this world. Once the United States, the empire, discovers that its little pool in the Eastern Mediterranean is costing it far more than it needs to be expending in this great struggle, it'll be cut free. I really think Mearsheimer and Walt, to a certain extent, are wrong. I don't think the Israel lobby, it's a cover. It's a cover for the Congress. It's a cover for the White House. Indeed, it's a cover for many Americans who don't know any better. It has nothing to do with AIPAC and its influence, though. It's just there prima facie. What it is we're using Israel. Israel is our pit bull in that part of the world in order to accomplish this strategy of stopping the inexorable movement of power back to the east. And they're positioned perfectly to do that with regard to the Mediterranean, which incidentally happens to be the sea that was at the center of all this power shifting throughout 3,000 freaking years. and it's a very critical place. And who else is there? Turkey. So very important place. And we're using Israel. We're using them. If they weren't there to do what they're doing, we would be doing it with our own people and our own troops, if we could recruit them to do it. That's increasingly a problem too. So look for more proxies for us to recruit in the world. Look for more allies for us to put in Libya or some other god-awful place in some god-awful stupid war. That's what we'll be doing. We're going to be using our friends and our allies to fight for us.
Right now, Israel is talking about forming an alliance to fight Houthis, to fight Ansarullah in Yemen. Who's going to be in that alliance, Larry? Right now, we've learned for more than, I would argue, more than in 9 months that the United States, together with the United Kingdom and somehow France, are fighting the Houthis.
United Kingdom has its rowboat down there. They have a rowboat and a submarine.
They couldn't defeat Houthis because these people are not gonna back down on what they want. Their objectives. They know what they want to do, because the main goal, the main objective is what's going on in Palestine, in the West Bank, in Gaza. This is the
And
main goal for them.
I don't think that they have taken their eyes off Saudi Arabia either. And to a certain extent, the other former members of the coalition. My understanding is that coalition is just about broken down. That the Saudis are the only ones still in it, and they're kind of backed away because, one, they were working on a political solution that required them to back away, and they see the Houthis being taken care of by the actions of the United States and Israel. And I think they're wrong on that too, because I think the only way you exterminate, stop, whatever adjective, verb you want to use, the Houthis is drop 15 or 20 nukes on them and just eradicate them, because they are tough dudes. They're going to keep fighting to the last man, to the last bullet, to the last drone. They're going to keep fighting.